We are still in Chapter 4 and we are doing Section 2. And previously, we'll learn about North African civilizations and cultures. This time, we will learn about West African civilizations and their cultures. In this lesson, we will learn about the Nok culture. Go ahead, get a book or log into our website, and from there, Clever, Cengage Learning. And from Cengage Learning, you may want to go to Unit 2, Chapter 4, and we are doing Section 2. And this will be Lesson 1, Nok Culture and Iron Technology, pages 110 to 112. The objective of this lesson is to identify and explain the importance of terracotta and iron smelting to Nok civilization. And this chapter's essential question is, what impact did trade and technology have on North and West Africa? The Nok people of West Africa were probably the first culture to smelt iron. So lesson 2.1 discusses how this technology affected the Nok. Now let's take a look at the review and assess questions first. Number 1, reading check. What Nok developments brought change to West Africa? Number 2, analyze cause and effect. How did the use of iron tools affect Nok culture? Number 3, draw conclusions. How did the Nok use raw materials to advance their culture? Archaeologists have discovered examples of Nok terracotta sculpture over a wide range of what is now today Nigeria. Archaeologists first discovered Nok sculpture, and they learned that people in the region had been finding fragments for years. An archaeologist used carbon dating of plant material embedded in terracotta and determined what the sculpture dated from. Well, they discovered that it's about 500 BC to 200 AD. At one site, the archaeologists found iron furnaces with terracotta figures both in and around the furnaces. Carbon analysis of the site revealed that bits of charcoal and date from 280 BC archaeologists concluded that the terracotta objects were sacred and believed their purpose was to aid in the smelting. And smelting is the process of extracting iron or metal from ore or other materials. And they usually use fire to extract this iron by melting them from maybe rocks or stones. The Nok culture was one of the earliest known societies of West Africa. So it existed in modern-day Nigeria from around 500 BCE to 200 CE. The Nok farmed crops and used iron tools. Historians and archaeologists refer to this culture as the Nok culture because artifacts were first discovered near modern-day Nigeria, a Nigerian town of Nok. So Nok culture is known for its unique terracotta sculptures and its early iron working. In 1943, archaeologists discovered some interesting artifacts into which they determined belong to an unknown culture. Well, today it is now known as the Nok civilization or culture. So these artifacts are mostly terracotta sculptures of human heads, human figures, and animals. So one of the key identifying characteristics of Nok sculpture is the triangular or oval-shaped eyes on human faces. Human figures also often have elaborate hairstyles, and typically humans are depicted seated with their hands on their knees. Archaeologists have analyzed the clay used by Nok people in their sculptures and discovered that all the clay likely came from the same source, suggesting that a central authority controlled the supply. Nok sculpture have been found across the area over 78,000 square kilometers or 30,116 square miles, suggesting that these artists, although they received their clay from a central source, were part of an expansive civilization. Another important characteristic of the Nok culture is their use of iron technology. There is an evidence of iron working in the region dating back to at least 4th century BCE, and possibly even earlier. In the village of Taruga, Nigeria, archaeologists have found no fewer than 13 iron smelting furnaces. Archaeologists have also discovered other iron artifacts from Nok like farming tools and weapons. However, while the Nok certainly had iron smelting technology, they also used stone tools as well as metal, which suggests that the metal materials were scarce and not widespread. The Nok are significant for being one of the very few civilizations in the world that transitioned from stone tools straight to iron tools without first learning how to make copper or bronze tools. Well, the Nok culture also used their iron technology to develop farming tools, and these farming tools allowed them to be more productive in their crops, and it helped them clear the lands, and it helped them plant more crops, and in result, they were able to store more food, and storage of food eventually resulted to their ability to just stay at home, and eventually this led to a healthier population, and this healthier population resulted to an increased number of people as well, exponentially. And so this gave way to a larger group of people, eventually creating a very interesting, unique civilization in West Africa. Now, despite all this, the legacy of the Nok people is difficult to determine due to the mystery around their identity and origins, or how they started. Some believe that the Nok's artistry influenced the beautiful metalwork of the Ife people, who later lived in the area of Nigeria. The Ife people, who lived around 11th to 15th century CE, were famous for detailed and lifelike metal sculptures of human heads. However, it is still unclear whether the Nok art and metalworking influenced later African societies like the Ife. Aside from what we can learn from their terracotta artwork, most details of Nok culture, society, and social organizations remain unknown. Now, to summarize, number one, iron smelting and the clearing of land brought change to West Africa. In what sense? That's for number two. Iron tools enabled the Nok to clear the land to grow more food, and as a result, the Nok population expanded or increased. Number three, the Nok used clay to create a distinctive form of sculpture. So that's our first lesson in section 2, chapter 4, and go ahead, answer the review and assess questions.